I'm Joe Kennedy, from the Shoshone of the Western Shoshone Nation.
He's also on the board of Nevada Desert Experience.
Well, I'm not real prepared today like Ian and Jim here. You know, I've been going through our election process. I'm up for election for council, as you know. I am the chairman for the Shoshone, so I've been kind of gearing up for that. Talked with John. We're in a lawsuit on Mount Navo with BLM. So he and I talked. I wasn't able to make it up to Reno for that event because I had another issue going on right then. I was supposed to be here in Vegas, and I was. And I think Ian had something going on around the same time. Wasn't able to make it to his thing either, but been talking about some of our issues. There'll probably be a story coming out of Indian Country Today next couple of weeks, I think. That'll be about militia and what's been going on with us. Anyway, so we've been very involved in many issues. With the mining is a big concern for us because of the environmental impacts that it has on the land. We've been dealing with that, working with John, working with Tomoke Council. South Fork was on board there for a while with us, and we've been dealing with that. Water being very sacred. We need to protect the water because that's the lifeline. Without water, there will be no life, and without the land and the air, there would be no life either. So, we always look to protect those things, and when we're talking about those things, we're going to get into the nuclear stuff, so we need to make sure those are all protected also. So those are the things that we really have been working closely on, and very, very strongly opposing those things and dealing with them, in those ways. With litigation was one of the things. My elders have always talked, we don't like to litigate, but sometimes you just have to because there's no other choice. You just got to get into it. You'd rather negotiate, try to get things resolved, but sometimes you just can't do that. So, we end up doing those things. As Ian has said, we've been going through the effective status for some time. When I became chairman in 2004 is when I really started going after the effective status. That was my main focus. That's what I put in my statement to the general council and said, this is one of the things I'm going to be doing is getting the effective status to deal with Yucca Mountain. Yes.
Effective status to us is probably the same as an acronym to you.
Oh. So you mean I put $5 in the hat for the effective status?
Just put it in my hand.
Well, the effective status is being in the process with the Yucca Mountain project, being able to make comments, getting funding from the U.S. government, so we can really be involved, because we were definitely affected by Yucca Mountain. Yucca Mountain being within our traditional area, Yucca Mountain being, the snake, very strong stories that are tied to that, because the story goes that if you disrespect that snake, it's going to spew out poison, which will affect all life as we know it. And, I really truly believe those stories because, the elders also talk about a mountain that's near there, which is called Bear Mountain. And, they disrespected the trees that are on that mountain. And those trees were taken away, and it was taken away by a bolt of lightning. And now what you find on that mountain is petrified wood. So these stories have meaning to us as indigenous people. So, we look at those things and we listen to them well. And we want to pass that along because, when we affect what's going on now and we're affecting our future generations, we have to be responsible. And if we're not being responsible, we're taking away from them, our future. And so, I've been taught to look way ahead and how's it going to impact. It's the same with what's going on with the water grab up north with Las Vegas, wanting to grab water up there. I went to a meeting and I said, how long is that water going to last? They said, well, about 10 years. I said, so you're going to get all this infrastructure, you're going to build up, and then run out of water. Then what you gonna do? So it's not sustainable. And that's the same thing we see with mining, with the nuclear industry. You know, as you keep producing this stuff, it's just not gonna be sustainable because you're gonna keep having to put storage in, and you're gonna have to build more storage places for these things. And one of the things I feel is not sustainable about gold mining is it's not sustainable the way it's going on right now, the way you do watering, the groundwater. You know, the air is being polluted by mercury and different types of things that are going into the atmosphere. The land's being affected really bad. So, you know, it's a big concern. And these multinational corporations that are doing this mining, they're going to be gone, you know, and they're going to take the gold and money with them. And we're going to be left with that hole in the ground that's going to be polluted for thousands and thousands of years possibly. Who knows? And the water will be affected for that time frame too. And then who's going to have to pay for that cleanup? It's going to be the people or the U.S. government itself down the road. Because, you know, I look at what's going on in where our headquarters is in Death Valley. And right now they're doing mine closures. And they did mine closures for the park. And they're putting, you know, millions of dollars into closing those mines. And probably only $100,000, $200,000 came out of those mines. And so, you know, the government taxpayer money is being put back in to close those mines. And that's just, it just seems like a waste to me. And that's the same with these corporations that are, the multinational mining corporations that are doing it. So it's something, you know, we need to think about. And think about the future. Because you look at the deficit right now, and you think, man, we're going to have to pay for that someday. And if it's not us, it's going to be our children. And that's not being responsible. So that's one of the things that Tivisha has really been focused on is what's sustainable, you know, for our future. And if it doesn't seem like it's sustainable to us, then we're going to, you know, get out there and make comments and say our piece on those things. So that's why we do. And we try to get out there and do what we can when we can. And so, you know, we just do our piece and try to hold on to what we got. And Ian talked a lot about, you know, the international stuff and the genocide. I mean, that has to be touched on at some point, and it has to be faced up by the American public and the world. I mean, the world is really focused on it more than the U.S. I mean, when I went to Geneva, I went on my own on Western Shoshone passport, and went to the CERD, which is the Committee for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination. And we had one expert come up to me and he said, you know, we want to see your people come over here and talk about what's going on in the United States. And he said that everything has been hidden inside of a vault, inside of a vault, inside of a vault, inside of a vault. He probably said it about 10 times, you know, and said it needs to come out. And,
Inside of what?
A vault?
A vault.
Vault.
Yes. And so, you know, how do we get that word out? We got 5 minutes?
Yeah, you got 5 minutes.
5 minutes left?
Yeah.
We're down to the countdown.
You
know.
can talk about the ghost dance.
Oh, the ghost dance. Yeah, you know, I could talk a little about the ghost dance. You know, my father talked about the ghost dance. He said it wasn't really considered a ghost dance because if you know a little bit of history about Wovoka, who was a Paiute spiritual leader that was from the Urington area, he actually came down to our part of the country, which is in Playa, or Fish Lake Valley, and actually came down to our area to, you know, he was going to do this dance. But the dance wasn't about changing, you know, and bringing back things like what's glorified in the storybooks. My father told me it was about the people had visions. They were spiritual leaders that seen what was coming. They seen the disease that was coming. They seen the death that was coming. They seen the changes. They seen Europeans' encroachment. So what they were doing was sort of a preparation for what was to come. And it was like, you know, they did these dances when somebody passed away, and it was almost like, you know, and I really don't know the right word off the top of my head, you know, but it wasn't considered a ghost dance. It's kind of like a different I don't know how I'd say it in English, you know, my elders always try to tell me in the Shoshone what it would be, but I'm just not sure how to say it in the English, more like a spirit, because you're sending somebody, you know, onward, you know, because they've passed. So it's kind of like going in that direction, so it's about, you know, somebody passing. So when Wovoka took that, he took it, you know, to the Sioux, as you know, and they were talking, it was, you know, they had these ghost shirts that they were made of, but it changed as it went out that way further. But it did start in our part of the country, and it had a totally different meaning than what it finally ended up as. So that's the ghost dance that I've been told, you know, by my father, and probably Pauline would probably tell you the same type of thing. She said that Wovoka was he was a Christian also, besides, you know, having his indigenous traditional ways and beliefs. How many minutes are there?
You got 2 minutes if you want to.
2 minutes.
Did you finish your UN and Geneva story?
The UN and Geneva story. Well, you know, we did get a decision from the Committee for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination that the United States had violated the Western Shoshone's rights to property, due process, and equality under the law. This is one of the things that we've been just challenging every chance we get is, you know, where does this taking of Indian lands come from? And it comes from the doctrine of discovery. You have to go way back and see where it starts. Because if you look at where it starts with that, and the paper bowls and all of that, it says that because indigenous people in this country were not Christians, that they could not hold property. Well, that's crazy. In today's world, you have a lot of atheists, so do you go take their homes because they, you know, they shouldn't own property because they're not Christians? You know, no, you don't. But the United States government is still committing those same crimes that they committed a long time ago because they're still using that against us today. You can see that with the Western Shoshone Distribution Act that they passed. I rejected that claim, just so everybody knows, so, and my family did it too. So we just said, no, we're not taking that money, so we stand on our rights as traditional people, and we hold on to our rights as Shoshone and the title to our lands. And hopefully, we've challenged that in court also. Again, we didn't want to litigate, but we also challenged the taking of property by the U.S. government under the Fifth Amendment, under the Constitution of the United States, saying that we should have got fair compensation if their property was going to be taken. And we went to court. I sat in the court, and the judge said, well, this wouldn't happen to any corporation. This wouldn't happen to any other citizen in the country. But at the end of the day, ruled against us because what? We were a tribe, we're indigenous, and they just sunk us there. But we're still in court. We're still going to court on that one. And but you know, I think the judge was just, I mean, we were hoping she was going to make a change. She was going to make the right decision and say, you know what? When she said this doesn't happen to anybody else, we was thinking, okay, maybe this is the one. But so far, it's not happening, and we're still, still in that same position. And my time's probably up now.
Yeah, exactly.
That was pretty good for you. All right, so I think we have about 25 minutes left for Q&A and discussion.